Hello, IAMPRO community. I am Charlie Brooks, and I have a very exciting guest with us today. We have Mr. O.T. Fagbenle. He is a British actor who trained at RADA. He's an accomplished theatre, film, and TV actor who has most recently starred in The Handmaid's Tale, We Crashed, and Paramount's First Lady. I've binge watched all of them. They're amazing. He's also a writer and director, bringing Mac to our screens for Hulu, in which he starred, executive produced, and composed amazingly. And he's got a CV as long as my arm. So I'm not going to keep you waiting for a second longer. And with that, I'm going to bring in the very lovely OT. Hello, welcome to IAMPRO.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Your time is really appreciated. Where are you coming from today?
I'm Los Angeles. I just got back from shooting another season of Handmaid's Tale in Toronto and arrived back in Los Angeles a couple of days ago.
Amazing. And how is life at the moment? Is it a little crazy?
Yes, I'm giving thanks. You know, it's I've just finished. I write as well, and so I've been kind of holding off giving in some drafts for some projects that I'm working on until I finished acting. So I finished acting, so it's great to put that down, and now I'm trying to get my head back into writing mode.
I mean, you have a lot going on, OT. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know how your brain copes with it. That's what we're going to find out today. Can we start with why acting? Where did it start for you?
Well, you know, there were lots of things I liked doing when I was a kid. I was a child musician, and I did, sports, and I was interested in academia as well. But I think I was just a better actor than I was at anything else. I loved it, but it was amongst other loves. I remember when I first was thinking about applying to drama school, I went to this thing called WAC, which was kind of like low cost training for underprivileged kids or whatever. And I remember I went to my drama coach there, and I was like, hey, listen, my drama teacher, I was like, I'm thinking about applying for drama school. And he was like, is there anything else you can do? And I was like, huh? And I was like, because if there's anything else you do, you should go and do that, because this is the hardest choice. And I was like, oh gosh, I do think there's something else I could do, but I really want to do this, so I'm going to try anyway. So anyway, I think it was a combination of love and aptitude. And then once I got into my mother-in-law, once I got into drama school, then that kind of set me up to be like, this is the path I'm going to go on, because I felt at that point that I had kind of like, I don't know, at least set myself up for the next 3 years.
Yeah. Was your drama coach at WAC Che Walker by any chance?
Yeah. You know Che?
Yeah, I do. He's wicked.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's an extraordinary talent.
Yeah, I know, he's great.
That was exactly who said that to me. It was Che Walker who said to me, is there anything else you can do?
He's such a character.
Yeah.
So did you just audition for one drama school, just RADA? Is that where you had your eyes set, or did you audition for a few?
Well, we didn't really have money to audition for a bunch. I think it was like £40 each auditioning for places, and so we auditioned. And I didn't even know any drama schools. I didn't know anything about drama school. I sat down with my mum and we looked through a box of prospectuses, and my mum was like, "I've heard of Guildhall, heard of Central, heard of RADA," and it was so late in the day, the decision to try and audition for drama school, that we'd missed the getting into Guildhall, and so that just left us with 2 places, RADA and Central. So I applied to those 2, and I managed to get to both.
Oh, well done. Was that a tough decision, deciding between the 2?
Yeah, you know what? I had a great time at Central, and I was like, these people are great, and they offered me the part for. They offered me the role, place first, and I was like, all right, that's it. I'm going to Central. I don't care what RADA says. And then RADA offered me, and I was like, oh, I guess that has maybe I should go RADA, because of the name. But I didn't know any different. And to be honest, my perspective now is, there's so many roads to become a professional actor, but if one does decide to go to the professional training route, I don't think there's much in it when you compare the top 5 or 6 drama schools. And really, when it comes to the training, there probably isn't much in it in the top 10, 20 drama schools. The main difference from my perspective, and by the way, everybody, this is just my perspective, is that more industry people go to the more recognized schools. And so when you get into your 3rd year and you're doing your scenes for the industry, more people will turn up at RADA than they will for Manchester Met, and more people turn up for Manchester Met than they will at, name your university in the Cotswolds or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the main things. The other, I guess, advantage of going to one of the named ones, and I kind of think of like the top, I know, RADA, Central, Guildhall Drama Centre, the Bristol Old Vic. So, I'm not Manchester Met even. Like, I'm not even up on what's currently the main 6 or 7. But the other advantage, apart from the industry people going there, is they tend to attract better talent. I think the teaching is probably the same amongst the top. I don't think there's much in it. But you will get very, very good actors going to those top 6. And I think you learn as much, if not more, from the actors you'd be around than you would from the school itself. But like, what you did, you went straight into work. Well, then now you're learning mostly from other actors around you and from the directors around you. And so that's as good as a drama school. The best thing about drama school is getting to have other actors around you and practicing it a lot.
Yeah, totally. And I wonder if that's, do you think they're more selective in those big ones? Are the numbers small? I don't actually know.
Yeah, it's a really funny thing, because one of the things, like, for example, as a professional, is the art of auditioning is a slightly different art. I think maybe a significantly different art from the art of being an actor. Like,
Yeah.
and there are people who are good at auditioning and not as good at performing, and there are people who are amazing at performing and terrible at auditioning. And so it's an perfect system to try and find talent, but it's the best system we have currently. And so, yeah, I think it does attract the best talent, but it also tends towards people who are good at auditions.
Right. It's so true,
Sorry, young people. There's something on your mic quite a lot. I don't know if, so you know.
Of questions that I've got for you, OT. I'll keep it.
Okay. But one of the things, actually, one of the pieces of advice that it took me a number of years to really understand properly is the importance of getting your audition technique down. The importance of seeing, like, if you have an antagonistic relationship with auditions, then you're going to spend a lot of your life as an actor in conflict. And oh God, another audition. Oh, self-taping. Oh, it's so terrible. What's the point of that attitude? You must have a positive attitude towards auditioning and really take it as a discrete part of your craft to go, okay, how do I perfect this? Because going on stage and being able to, talk to the back row of the theater, or going into a movie and being able to do the difference between a close-up and a 2-shot, that's its own discrete technique. And there's a technique for auditioning. And so really taking that as like a beautiful challenge. 1, to be able to prepare for an audition properly. 2, to be able to execute that audition properly. And 3, to be able to let go of that audition so it doesn't send you mad because you did or didn't get the part. And really working on those 3 things, I think is kind of essential for all actors.
So what are your top tips on preparing for an audition?
Yeah, got a few. I'm trying to organize them.
Give them to us, OT. This is the juicy stuff.
Here's the magic. Get ready, people. This is where the gold comes. Jobs are gonna rain on you. Okay, so I would say when I first got out of drama school, when I started off 20 years old, 21 years old, I knew going into every audition that I had worked harder on that audition than anybody else. I knew that because I worked all the hours. I worked when I woke up, I worked in the shower, I missed out on the birthday party, I got all the research materials, I practiced. I called up friends and mentors and teachers of mine to help me. Hey, can you help me work on this audition? I was relentless. And I would remember that I would sit in those audition rooms opposite people and just almost feel sorry for them. I was like, what chance do you have? You've not worked harder than I've worked. Now, obviously, I didn't get most of the jobs or whatever, but the point is that was my attitude. Now, the only proviso I would say to that is I've got a couple of friends of mine. I knew Michaela Cole at the beginning of her career, and
She went to
put
whack
her
as
on
well,
tape.
didn't she?
Yeah, and I put her on tape a number of times. And I've got another friend of mine, Nora Critchlow, who's a genius actor, and both of them, as far as I'm concerned, hardly put any work into their auditions at all. They would just kind of like wake up and like, learn the lines kind of, and then do it. And they've got great careers. So, hey, listen, different strokes for different folks. If you're asking what worked for me, is relentless and creative and exploratory and collaborative work and preparation. That's my first piece of advice. If you're self-taping, finding a good self-tape partner is really essential. And the best self-tape partners, the people who are patient and want excellence out of you and believe in you, are going to be the best ones. And oftentimes having a reciprocal relationship where you help them out with something and they'll help you out with something helps keep that dynamic going. And obviously you'll probably need a couple of people that you can turn to who can help you out. The third thing I would say is really, you got a script, and the script says, I can't believe you did this to me, right? Everyone's going to do it the same way. Well, I can't believe you did this to me. Everyone's going to do that. And what happens is, because I've been a director, I've sat in, I've cast people in things. You just see everybody do it the same way. And then someone does it differently. Someone has a different take, and you take notice because you can become numb. You don't want to try and make something different for the sake of different sake. But we are interested in finding out what your specific take is on this part. What is it that you can bring to this part, which is original? And ultimately, that's who you are as an artist. You're going, hey, I have a perspective on the world. I have a life experience, which I'm going to draw from and give to this line. And no one else can give you this line the way I am because they haven't had my life experience. You know what I'm saying? They are the artist I am. And so really figuring out what is it? I worked with this great director once, Bill Gaskell, who used to run the Royal Court. And he once said, and I don't know if this is true, but I find it useful sometimes. He used to say, take your first instinct on a line and then throw that away. And take your second instinct on a line and throw that away. And keep on throwing away until you come up with something original. Now, I don't know if, like I said, if I entirely believe in that, but it's a useful mentality sometimes to not settle on your first instinct. What happens if instead of shouting that line, what happens if I whisper it? Can I whisper that line and it be just as deadly as if I shouted it? What happens if I laugh at that line because I'm humiliated that I've exposed my anger in this situation instead of shouting that line? Like, what happens then? What is my mom like when she gets angry? Is there something I can steal from the way my mom says her angry lines and infuse that into the character? And by constant uncovering this, the onion, you may come up with a kernel which is original. And I think that originality, your voice, your artistry is going to make the difference. All right. I could talk about it for ages, but I'm just going to round off with this last bit, which is we live in an age of self-taping. And look, there are exceptions to every rule because I've cast people who did shitty self-tapes. But my general take is don't give people distractions. Don't have someone walking in the background of your shot, but also frame it properly, just so you know, okay, this is how I frame my self-tapes, like this. A little bit of space above the head, just above my chest bone, my solar plexus. This is good framing, all right? Have good lighting. I mean, this is what I have right now isn't great lighting. Invest yourself, if you're going to do self-tapes, in a little Beyonce light, a little self-tape light. Get good lighting. I try and do as plain background as possible, like this. Yep. Not too much going on. I don't want them trying to figure out what books I got on my shelf. Plain and simple. And so make sure that your mic is working well, that they can hear you properly. Like, just take the time. I've spent so much time balancing books so I can get my camera height. You don't want the camera looking up down your nose like this while you're doing the acting. You don't want it, make it good. I'm going to show you just a couple of quick technical tips.
Wicked.
So in TV, you have a close-up, right? And you have mid shot and you can have a body shot. Now, it's a bit awkward if you try and move the camera, right, during an audition. But sometimes what I'll do is, for example, if I want to move from a medium shot to a close-up, and I'll do that because, for example, the scene is getting more intimate, what I'll do while I'm recording my audition is I'll do something like this. I'll say, hey, listen, I can't believe you did that to me. And you really hurt me, okay? And I don't know if we're ever going to be able to get through this, but I hope we can. See what I mean? So what I've done is I've given them this sense, and it just on some level will like affect them. They'll feel the intimacy of it. Don't get too distracted. I don't get too technical, but that's it.
Amazing. Can I pick up on something? So you said, or you didn't say, the Bill from the Royal Court said, take your first instinct and throw it away, second instinct and throw it away. Because I suppose our first instinct is our instinct as human beings, right? And we're not thinking as ourselves in that moment. So that leads me to think, how much of ourselves do we borrow for a character? Like, how much of OT do you take? Do you use your own ingredients and put it in, or do you completely separate? What are your thoughts on that?
Listen, I think sometimes, like, language isn't a thing. It's a signpost to the thing, and so different people can use different language to describe the same thing, because words aren't things; they're like signposts. What is it? The fool. When you point to the moon, the fool looks at the finger. Like the finger is just the word. So anyway, all that to say is that the way I articulate it is that I think it's all me. The point is that I have within me a million different types of me. That I am sometimes an extrovert and sometimes I'm an introvert.
Yes.
And sometimes I'm like, I don't know, embarrassed, and sometimes I'm ballsy, and like, so I have bits of my mom in me and bits of my dad in me and bits of my best friend are all in me. And so the challenge is to mine myself for what is most appropriate for this character. And from my point of view, that's why one of the most important things an artist must do is self-knowledge. You must really know yourself.
Yes.
It's no good if you aren't honest with yourself about what's humiliating to you and what infuriates you. If you're hiding from yourself that you sometimes get infatuated with the wrong person, whatever it is, if you're then you're limiting yourself as an artist. And so when it comes down to this first instinct thing, I think oftentimes, and at least I can speak for me, I have an idea in my head of what the writer wants from this line, what they want to see. Oh, they want to see me go, I can't believe you did this to me. So my first instinct actually isn't looking deep into my soul. My first instinct is trying to please, as we do sometimes as an artist. And I think the thing about throwing away the first instinct is going, okay, that's what you think they want. Okay, just put that to the side. How else would you do it? And it's giving yourself an opportunity to explore.
Yeah, that's good. And I think knowing yourself, though, that comes with age, doesn't it? I think sort of exploring. I know that I definitely have learned to, doing the work on myself as I've gotten older. And I don't know if I'd necessarily have done that when I was younger, really, but it definitely, it enhances performances, I think, for sure. Going back to when you said you have cast people from a shitty self-tape. Let's have a little bit of reassurance. What do you mean? Like, how did you just see something in them on that tape and then got them into the room?
No, well, when I say shitty first tape, I don't mean performance. The performance was annoyingly good. I mean, shitty first tape is where they had it like vertical, and their whole messy room was in the background, and I was just like,
yes,
distracted. Very good, and actually, I ended up casting that person, and think she I don't know if I want to embarrass her by telling that she did take, but anyway, it was someone I worked with on Max who was just brilliant, and I was so lucky to find her. Talent wins out in the end, but it doesn't hurt to have all the other things.
Yeah. So the life of an artist does include a lot of risk and failure. How important are those two things to you?
I mean, ultimately, I think you have to take risks. It's all relative, you don't want to take. You got to take risks as an artist. Like I said, like it's very safe to do what's normal. I mean, sorry, just because it comes to my mind now. My favorite book of acting, which is it's called The Actor and the Target by Declan Donlan, and I used to carry that book around with me to every set. I would read it before scenes just to reconnect me. And there's this great quote from it, which I'm shy to bastardize. But basically, what I got from it is it's saying, that you have to take risks, you have to take this danger, because like it's like you're inside and you're looking in the kitchen and the kitchen's empty, but it's safe in the kitchen. But I'm gonna freaking bastardize it. The point is that you're gonna have to take risks to find truth and to find excellence. So anyway, that's it. In terms of failure, if you don't have a tolerance for failure, you're not gonna last as an actor. And this is a long game, So having a good relationship with failure is important. So, but I would say this is the thing that changed the game for me in terms of failure. Obviously, failure is how you learn, blah, blah, blah. You guys have heard that bit. What I did at a point is I started setting my litmus test, my criteria for win or failure based solely on my actions. So, for example, if I went to an audition and I worked really hard on the audition, and I got myself a haircut, and I put on the right outfit, and I went in there with a positive mentality, and I did my stretches before I went in there, and I got in there, and I connected with the people in the audition, and I did my very best in that audition, and I left that audition in good vibes. That was my win. And if I did that, I'd take myself off somewhere and give myself my favorite smoothie, some kind of personal treat, and I clap myself on the back and say, well done, you did it, because that was the win. Now, obviously, it's a mind trick, because what I want is a fucking job, right? But if I try to orientate my mind around my winning and losing being based on my actions, it's very empowering, because the alternative is that you only win when they say yes, and you're going to fail 9 out of 10 auditions, and so you're getting no, and it's fatiguing on the brain. So the way I think of failure in this respect is thinking, okay, well, let me change what the definition of winning and failure is to put it in my control, within the locus of my control.
I love that. How do you stay inspired, OT?
I think I'm curious as a person, and I try and to consume art and consume life. I like to travel. I like to meet people. I like to get into conversation with people. I read books. I watch TV shows, and those things set off chain reactions in my creative mind. And suddenly I'm like, and also, by the way, hardship, pain, suffering. When I say to my friends sometimes, artist friend of mine, and I went through a breakup, or I've gone through this loss, I'm mourning this. I'm like, don't waste it. Don't waste all that sweet, sweet nectar from which you're going to create your next thing from. Like, you could just be like, or you could get your fucking ass up, get a pen and write it out, get that audition and put it in there, put your pain into your art. And so, yeah, that's what I would say.
So hard when you're in that, though, isn't it? How do you look after your mental health with regard, or I don't know how much rejection you still have, whether you even still audition these days, but how do you maintain well through the fame journey as well? Because obviously now you're an incredibly well-known actor. Has that been tough?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not gonna sing you a song of poor little privileged boy. It definitely comes with its own challenges.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you 5 pillars of mental health if you care to hear them.
Go. I would love to hear them.
Hopefully I can remember them all. I sometimes forget one. Okay, this is not in order, but these are the 5. 1, gratitude. There's a lot of research to show that gratitude practice is even more effective than antidepressants in keeping one positive and not depressed. And what I do, there's an app called Journal, or the 5-minute journal. And basically every morning and every evening when I'm being a good boy, I write down 3 things I'm grateful for. I contemplate those things I'm grateful for. Having a gratitude attitude. My phone right now actually is this is boring watching someone look at their phone. But anyway, on the front of my phone it says, gratitude attitude. It's an important part. Okay. Number 2 is exercise. Once upon a time, we're cavemen and the woolly mammoth comes and we get really stressed out and the body releases it releases cortisol and adrenaline, all these kind of like neurochemicals and hormones, and we run or we fight or flight, and that uses up a lot of these chemicals. Nowadays we get an email, a kind of passive aggressive text, and the body releases all these same chemicals, all these same hormones, and now they just sit in there. So for me, what I found is that exercise, moving the body around, just like we used to do when we got stressed about something, is a really useful way of maintaining good mental health. Third thing is communing with your people, your family, your biological family, your logical family. When more people get depressed, oftentimes they feel like they want to put themselves away in a little hole. Force yourself out of that hole, get around positive people, spend some time with them. The 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth one is meditation or prayer. I learned transcendental meditation, which is a technique I used for a long time. Now I use, there's an app called the Waking Up app, which is by Sam Harris, who's got questionable politics, but he's very good at philosophy. And so guided meditations I find very useful. And so anyway, meditation or just stilling the mind. And then the fifth and final thing is doing work for helping other people out.
Being of service.
It's we always become a bit self-obsessed, but as artists, but taking time to help other people is, even from a selfish perspective, it's very good for the mental health, but it also helps the world. So yeah, those are my 5 things that I try when I'm down or question my mental health. I just have a little check-in with those 5 things and think, when was the last time I worked out? When was the last time I just went for a walk and meditated? Is there something I can do for someone?
If you want to feel self-esteem, then do esteemable things. And these things are simple. They're so accessible for everybody. And yet people still don't do it,
Yeah.
Oh God, we're at 27 minutes. I'm like, okay, so you've recently played Barack Obama, which was fucking excellent, by the way. Playing someone in real life or creating a character, do you have a preference? And what were the different challenges?
Oh my God. And don't stress too much about it being right on the half hour. We're all right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I found it really hard. It's a wonderful opportunity, and it comes with its own challenges. It's a bit like, because when you're creating your own character, how does he sit? Well, you decide how he sits. Does he cross his legs? Does he have his legs wide open when he walks? Does he lean back? Does he lean forward? Like, I could decide that. And by the way, I could also decide at some point that my character has changed his mind and he no longer sits with legs crossed because this change has happened in his. But when you're playing someone real and you feel like, oh, okay, well, I have to act within the guardrails, that he sits like this, and he sometimes sits like that, and those, and the boy vocally as well. It's very challenging to do that, and I'm not a natural mimic, so so I find it really challenging playing someone. But I loved learning about him, and I loved the process, obviously, of working Viola. But I would choose to not do a real person. I definitely said, like, I think I'm gonna take a few jobs before I go back to try to play a real person.
Okay, so when you are playing somebody that isn't real, where do you start with the character, like building that character?
That's a good question. So the way I think about it is, the first thing I want to do when I get a script is comprehension. And what I mean by that is I just want to just understand it, like just read it and just try and just get a sense of what is going on. But here are a couple of practical techniques that you can use. One thing I used to do literally, but now I just do it subconsciously, I think, is go through the script, and every time someone says something about your character, highlight it and write it down. And every time you say something about your character, highlight it and write it down. And it can be really interesting going, wow, everyone says about my character that, grumpy old John and, bad-tempered Frank and da-da-da. And you go, oh, okay, that's reflecting back to me who my character is, or at least who people perceive my character to be. That's one exercise I find really useful. And then just, I guess I look through and look for little clues about, so for example, let's say I've got someone and he's a bully, right? He kind of like pushes people around and talks shit to people and puts people down. Very often what I do is I think his psyche is the opposite. I think if I'm seeing a bully on the screen, this is a very insecure person. This is a person who's really afraid that their power is going to be taken away from them, and probably someone whose power was taken away from them when they were young. And so then what I do is go about trying to create an internal world which is full of fear and anxiety and insecurity. And then on top of that, I put on the armor of bullying and pushing, and then make it, you know, and then find places in the script where I go, oh, we might look behind and see the insecure person in
Where's
there.
the vulnerability? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm oftentimes trying to find a dynamic range. I'm trying to find, okay, if they present this way on the outside, then what are they like in the inside? When are they the most quiet? When are they the most loud? When are they the most physically expressive? When are they the most still? And trying to stretch that out a lot. And I encourage people, when you look at your auditions as well, to ask yourself, is there a point in this scene or in these 3 scenes where he whispers or she whispers? Is there a point where they shout? Is there a point where they get very, very, very still? Is there a point where they're the most expressive? And just challenging yourself to go, well, instead of going a bit quiet, what happens if I actually whisper? What happens when he talks? Is that possible? So anyway, those are a couple of things. There's a bunch of things I do. I mean, I can't tell you. Like my toolbox now is just like full of different, you know, tips and tricks, but those are just a couple.
I love it. I love that you are here sharing it with us today. Thank you. Backstory. Do you do a lot of backstory work with your characters?
Yeah, I do. I do write generally. I didn't so much, but then I worked with David Morrissey on a TV show called Thorn, and David Morrissey is an incredible actor, and he's still doing these 2-3 page backstories, and I was like, oh geez, am I even working hard enough? So soon after that, I started doing it more and more, and yeah, I basically do it. I say basically because I just don't know how freaking useful it actually is, but I don't know. I do. For me, the process of building a character is like you shovel and you shovel and you shovel and you shovel and and then you find a gem.
Yeah.
And you put the gem on the pile, and you shovel and you shovel and you shovel, and you'll find it, and you put that on the pile. And so you do so much work to find one thing, one moment. But that's my process.
Are there conversations that you would have with the writer or director, though, of something that you hadn't obviously written or directed? So would you? You know, or is it, because it feels ridiculous to me sometimes. I'm like, well, I'm just going to make this up at the top of my head, you know. Yeah. Is that something you do?
Basically, you know, I almost feel, I don't know, I feel naughty sharing this with you, but no, I don't share it. I don't share my character's secrets with my directors and producers, and oftentimes other actors, because I think it's expecting them to understand the way you see things. And actually, at the point, I realized it's not even necessarily, and look, this isn't a black and white rule here, but it isn't necessarily even important that the director knows that your mum never let you become an ice, you know, your character. I did my backstory. My mum didn't let me become an ice skater. Like, it's not important to the director. He doesn't care. He doesn't need to know that, or she doesn't need to know that. You can just do the work. Just do the work and turn up and find solutions and be collaborative. So no, it's the basic answer that I don't share my backstory and stuff with them. Like, just let my process be my process. Don't be a difficult person. Go on and be brilliant. But I would say that as my career has progressed, I've definitely engaged more with writers, producers, and directors about scripts where I don't think the script is working, or where I don't think a scene is working. And I didn't do that as much at the beginning of my career, and I probably think that's a good thing, because I knew less and I just had less status. But that has been something that I've noticed as time has gone on, that I think I do have a better understanding of what makes a scene work and what makes a script work, and I think I can have a useful collaborative conversation with a writer and stuff.
Definitely comes with experience. And my next question was going to be, what happens if you and the director do see things differently, and how do you manage that if there's a conflict of how you think something should go?
It's really, really challenging because basically there's no answer I can give you all which will take you through any little thing. There's an overall thing. It's just remembering that this is a collaborative process, and that, you know, that actually, yes, you're trying to fulfill the vision of the writer and director, producer. That, in my opinion, is the point of our craft. We're trying to fulfill this other vision, and so my general sense is, hey, listen, be as collaborative as possible, especially at the beginning of your career. At the same time, you know, genius actors are born out of people who are really passionate about something. And so if you really feel something, then maybe you are willing to break a relationship or spoil a relationship for this end. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who's going to be on camera. You're the person who's going to go out there on stage. And so, but as a general rule, and maybe it says more about me as a person than anything, is that I try and avoid conflict. Like I try to aim towards collaboration. Okay, quick thing about feedback. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the shit sandwich. Give a compliment, give them the feedback, and give a compliment. Basically, all artists, we're all a bit insensitive. And so if you are going to give a writer a no, like you are going to say, hey, listen, this line doesn't really work, start with the things you think are brilliant about the script, the question about the line, and then how brilliant you think they are. You know,
rub their egos.
The general rule, because if you just go in and say, look, this line doesn't work, what often happens is people get defensive, and then you'll never find a middle ground. Whereas if you can let people know, hey, listen, I appreciate you, I see you, I'm sure there's a great answer for this. Here's my question about this line, but hey, I'm at your disposal. You know, you tell me how it works. Then I often find you can have a lot more of a useful conversation.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a way of approaching it for sure. Okay, just finally, I wanted to get onto your writing and creating, directing with Max specifically, and I know you've got loads more projects coming up. I've put something in early development, you see, and I've got terrible imposter syndrome because I feel like, I can't fucking do it. How did that come about? Has writing always been something that you're interested in, and directing, and do you prefer that side of things?
Yeah, I am. Gosh, lots of questions. Which one do I start with?
So I asked them all in one hit because I'm so aware of the time. Okay, so let's start with writing and directing and how that came about, and your feelings towards being brave and doing that, or if it's something you've always done.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, I've always done a bit of writing or whatever. I never really completed a script, and I come up with scenes and I have ideas about things, and then one day I was sitting down watching these roundtables. Like I said, I really recommend you guys to go onto YouTube, look up director roundtable, writer roundtable, actor roundtable. It's really great. I think it's the Hollywood Reporter that does them. And there's some really great discussions with these great. Anyway, there's one in which Tarantino was on there, and Tarantino, who's one of my directing heroes, was like, I would have made if the technology that's available today was available back when I was a teenager, I would have made my first film at 13. You know, like he said, if you say you're a writer or a director and you haven't made a film yet, you're full of shit. And I was like, oh my God, my hero just called me full of shit. Because there I was sitting in my studio apartment and I'd never finished anything. And I just put myself, I was going to make something. And within a week, I'd written and directed my first short, which was me and two friends with a shitty borrowed camera. And it was a bit of a mess, but I had distinguished myself from the masses who haven't completed anything. I became determined that I would sit with those who have done something. Whether it's good or bad is a separate question. I will not sit amongst those who say, oh yeah, I've got this idea and I started writing the script and I didn't finish. That is not my portion. That is not going to be me. I'm going to be amongst those who have done something. And I encourage all of you who are amongst those who have a writing idea, have a script idea, go and do it. There's no excuse. Go and do it and finish it. And it doesn't matter if it's shit. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the done. And so that's how I got into it. Then I started making more shorts. And luckily my brother, Luti, who runs a company called Luti Media, he was a filmmaker as well. And between us, we started collaborating and making bigger and bigger projects. I started writing big, scripts based off of my shorts and started pitching those to TV companies.
Creative family, OT.
Yeah, they are.
Sorry, go on.
No, go on. What were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say something really quickly about imposter syndrome.
That's what I was going to ask you about. Well, great minds, babes. Great minds.
Let's see. Imposter syndrome, for me, assumes that the people who are doing things are supposed to be there. It assumes that those people who should be here have enough talent, they have enough experience, and I have imposter syndrome because I am not one of these people. From my perspective, that's not how the world works. There are a bunch of people who don't have the talent. You know this already. There are a bunch of people you're looking at on screen, you're going, or you're reading the script and you're going, who the fuck? Right? Like, it's not, we don't live in a world where all the people in positions of power are the most talented and most experienced. So I think everybody dealing with imposter syndrome, wash yourself of that idea. You have the privilege of having an opportunity to be one of the fakers. And how lucky are you to be able to be one of those thousands of people who are faking the shit out of it and getting to do it. So embrace it, embrace that fear. It's irrelevant. It's totally irrelevant that you think you're an imposter. A bunch of these people are imposters. So just go and do it.
Take action and wing it every step of the way, babe. That's it, isn't it?
What else are you going to do? Otherwise, sit at home. Sit at home and watch other people do it. Watch other fakers do it.
Yeah.
Are you going to be one of the fakers who does it or one of the fakers who watches other fakers do it? I know which faker I want to be.
Yeah, me too. That's why I'm always saying to the people on here, I'm like, take action. Doesn't matter what it is, just take action on it. What would you say to a younger little OT? What would be your words to your, let's say, 15-year-old self?
I think it's challenging that, I think kindness is the greatest form of wisdom. And I think the times that I look back on and think I could have done better than most of the times where I think, oh, you could have been kinder. You could have been more empathetic. You could have taken more time with that person. You could have, I think there's no wisdom greater than kindness. And that's something which I'm, perpetually trying to develop is patience and kindness and a sense of love and generosity, which is just flows.
And that feels like a beautiful, beautiful place to end. Thank you for your kindness and being here today, sharing that with us. It's been, I'm like totally girl fanning. It's been amazing talking to you. Your work is incredible. So thank you.
It's been wonderful chatting with you, and good luck to everybody watching this. You can do it. Let's go get it.
We can do it. Yes. All right, honey, listen, I'm going to play the outro. It's my technical bit, and I'm going to say goodbye and send you so much love. Thank you, OT.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.